Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank y'all so much for being here. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. We may have some others join in with us, but we're going to go ahead and get started. It is 10:05. And I am so glad that you pushed your way to come on a Tuesday. So we're hoping that we get to see all your faces again for tomorrow and then Thursday. And then lastly, our last workshop, which will end off on Friday. So welcome to today's Promise Summer Bridge program, our day 2 of our Promise Bridge summer series program. Today we have a very special guest with us from our Career Connections Major Decisions, a freshman's guide to choosing your path. University. Robin holds a Bachelor of Science from Texas A&M Commerce, a Master of Education from University of North Texas, and another Master of Arts in History from Texas Women's University. As a career consultant for the College of Business, Robin comes with years of experience in workforce and career development, small business ownership, historical publishing and touring, LLC management, rentals and investment, and more than a decade in college teaching too. So Robin is a certified master of career services and a certified career services provider, both designated, conferred by the National Career Development Association. In her life outside of work, Robin is a historian. She maintains a website and a blog. This is at the redriverhistorian.com. So you want to look that up, you can. And she's written 5 books, y'all, 5 books about regional history and contracts with museums, libraries, and cities for developing exhibits and archive consultations. So everyone give a round of applause to Miss Robin Cole-Jett, our career consultant in the Career Connection Center. All righty. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, Robin, and then I think I made you co-host, so you're more than welcome to share your screen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you all for having me. I know that was a long um, introduction. Can I ask real quick before we begin? Can everybody see my screen? Yes, no? Is
Yes.
everybody, are you able to see the screen? Okay, the slideshow. Okay, awesome. I appreciate that very much. Let me get that chat back on so I can see everybody. Thank you so much, Camila and Valerie. Dr. Tolbert, I really appreciate all of these things. And I think the networking thing that y'all did, especially that you asked about each other's majors, guess what we're going to talk about today. So I think that's just absolutely wonderful that you're talking about that. It sounds like many of you have already made decisions. And we're going to talk about those decisions today. It's going to be interactive and all that stuff. So we're going to be looking at what is the difference between major, career, those kinds of things, and how to really prepare for all of those things. So let me go back over here and make sure. There we go. Okay. So that's what we're talking about today. Okay, just real quick. It's 29 slides. So no, 30, I'm sorry. So you can count down when you get bored. I count down on the slides. But we're going to make it as interactive as possible and to make it so that, it's not just death by PowerPoint. Okay. So we're going to talk about real quick what Career Connections is and what it does. We're going to talk about majors, careers, and those are question marks because not every major is a career. Not every career is a major. We're going to talk about your major and your future and preparations to take for that. So first of all, and it's stop me at any point. If you have questions, you can always ask questions in the chat. You can always unmute yourself and ask questions because this is more of a conversation than anything else. We don't have a huge amount of students in here, so we can definitely share back and forth and talk more and all those things. And at the end, of course, there are questions as well that you can ask. I'll give some points on that or some time for that. So first of all, Career Connections. What is it? What does it do? And every university, every college has a career services place. Most people use it when they're graduating. They don't start as freshmen. They don't start even as sophomores or juniors. They tend to start as seniors. Now, if they're graduate students, they tend to start, very early on in the graduate studies. But for most, they don't even worry about career services until like towards the end of their time in college. And that can be a difficult thing to do because understanding how the labor market is and understanding how everything is changing so rapidly is one of the biggest challenges that you're going to be facing because like I said, everything is changing rapidly. You may have heard about the labor market information that just came out that said that job postings and new jobs created have actually gone down 50% in the last 3 weeks. And then the person who was in charge of all those economic statistics, the person who, was ultimately the point person for it, got fired because it didn't align with the political narrative. So that can tell you so much about what's happening right now. So that's what Career Connections is. It's not just about, oh, help me find a job. Oh, help me with a resume. Of course we do that. But it's also about the challenges of an ever-changing world of work. So that's my question for you today, the very first one. And again, you can add that in the chat. You can also unmute yourself if you'd like to, talk. But how do you think the world of work has changed? What are some challenges that everyone is facing now? What do you think?
The job market is like really bad currently. Like we're having a higher unemployment rate than normal, and it's harder to get jobs in the first place, and it's even harder to keep them. So I think that that's something.
Excellent response. Thank you, Erica. That is so true. Usually, when we talk about unemployment rate, it's usually people actively unemployed but seeking work, actively seeking work. So, meaning that they're receiving unemployment benefits, and of course, they have to be actively seeking work to do that. There is a large portion of that. Of the people who are unemployed who are not getting unemployment benefits, but are either actively seeking work or not seeking work at all anymore. They've decided not to. So right now, our official unemployment rate in Texas is 4.1 or 4.2%. But the actual unemployment rate, some say it's up between 10 to 15%. So it's one of those things that it's very important to know what's going on, what's happening in that. And then Camilla is also saying, and Keandra and Camilla saying that AI is taking jobs, or you can't find a job. Have y'all ever seen that? Yes. Even in fast food, where AI is taking jobs. Y'all been to McDonald's, right? And instead of actually ordering with a person, you order on a screen, and then you have to kind of find the buttons, and then the buttons are down here or the buttons there, and you don't know, what if I hit that button? Am I going to end up ordering 50 burgers or something like that, and blow my budget? Those kinds of things. And if you have any kind of learning difference, any kind of physical, difference or something like that, it gets even worse. I have friends who are blind, and they can't work those smartphones, but everything is going towards smartphones. So I'm like, okay, what do we do? How do we adapt? And how expensive it is to adapt, and all of those things. The world of work has changed so rapidly since the beginning, since the Industrial Revolution. Of course, as a historian, I have to mention that Industrial Revolution, but then throughout those decades, it changes over and over again. And, you know, shoot, you probably can tell I'm a little older, but I remember when I first graduated, there was this job called desktop publisher, and I loved that job. It was fantastic. You could create newsletters, you could do all those things, you could do things, website building, all of those. And now there's no such thing as a desktop publisher anymore. It's like within, and I'm not that old, y'all, within, we're talking about a 10-year, 20-year time frame, suddenly that job that came up went away again. And that's what's happening now. There are so many things that are changing so rapidly with AI and all those things that the world of work has changed. And that's what Career Connections is going to help you with. I'm not going to go over all of the different services. I'm just going to talk about it real briefly. We do consultations, one-on-one talks. We do presentations if you want to get like a large gathering like today, more of a large gathering together and talking about things. We go into classrooms, but we also have standalone. Often they're virtual so that people, when you can take it at lunch, you can listen to us, in the evening, on your way home, that kind of thing. And then we also have a ton of online resources. I'm going to talk about some online resources today. And then we also, of course, do resumes and CVs, career fairs and events where employers come to talk to you, interview and job search strategies. We do big interview, but we also do mock interviews. We talk about salary negotiations. We talk about that labor market information I just spoke about so that you are prepared for what the challenges are ahead because we all got to eat. We all got to make a living. Sometimes we act as if, jobs and careers and so forth, that is just natural. It's not, panic inducing or anything like that, but it is because especially if you have bills to pay, you've got people to pay, people rely on you, then you have to be able to make that living. But you remember that in your adult life, like if you look at time spent at work without any breaks, without any sleep or anything like that, 90,000 hours of your adult life is going to be at work. That means 11 to 12 years. I forget the math, not good at math, but 11 years of your life is solely dedicated to work. In comparison, 14 years of your life is dedicated solely to sleep. So we're talking about a huge chunk of your life at work. And a lot of it is happenstance when we choose and what we decide to go on. And sometimes when we choose when we're 16, 17, 18 years old. And we prepare for the thing that we chose at 16, 17, 18 years old. And then you turn 30 or you turn 40, and then you realize, yeah, no, maybe that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. So you're constantly thinking about that work and constantly thinking about the cycle that goes on with that. So that's what we're here for, as well as students, but also an alumni. We can help you obtain internships. We help you with career boutiques, meaning, to dress professionally, especially if you don't have a whole bunch of money set aside to get that three-piece suit and so forth. Help you with profile photos for LinkedIn and on-campus jobs. So we're going to talk about a lot of these things today, but we're first going to begin with you again. Now, y'all, and I'm gonna ask the question about what's your major, but I first would like to know, what do you think the difference is between a major and a career?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, yeah, it's right on. It's right there. What's the difference? What do you think the difference is between a major and a career? And you can break down this question. What do you think a major is? And what do you think a career is?
I think a major is the type of field that you want to be in, and a career is the more specific job that you choose to do within your major. Like if you get a major in biology, you could potentially get like a job in like education or like in a lab or just anything in general. So yeah.
Very excellent. I love that response. Thank you so much, Erica.
Of
Uh,
course, Queen.
I think a major is what you study, and a career is what you do after you graduate.
Yeah, very much so. I love that. Thank you so much, Keandra. And please let me know if I mispronounce anyone's name, because I definitely do not want to mispronounce. It's just I'm reading on here, and English is my second language. But
You said it
let me.
perfectly.
I love what you are saying about the major is about your interest. That's pretty much what you mentioned, and that is so true. Your major is about your interest. The career is what you end up doing, but it's not always the same thing as your major. Your major might not, you have that interest in biology, for example, but your career might start with a whole nother branch. So, that you start doing it in some other way, because you found an environment, you found a values, you found a fit for you. So, and I'll give you my example. I have a graduate degree in history. I did work in history. I taught history. I worked in museums. I do consultations on the side, but I didn't like the politics of all of that. So I moved back to counseling students, which I love to do because I love that environment. I don't like necessarily the classroom environment or the more restrictive things inside a library type of environment, but I love the helping connection. So your major doesn't necessarily have to form to your career. And that is a key part of that. Students who are interested in their major are more likely to graduate, just so you know. And 80% of students will change their major. That's normal. That's part of the growing process. That's part of understanding what is required if you want to go into, for example, you want to go into PT, physical therapy school, or you want to go into medical school. Having a specific major isn't as important as just making sure you make good grades on those prereqs. And there you go. Actually, a major that's not on the same path as everyone else is sometimes preferred because it differentiates you, it sets you apart, and it has to be a major where you show that you have genuine interest for. We tended to conflate those two, right? That the major and career are the same thing, and that the whole time you're in your major, you're preparing for a career. So let me tell you a secret about going to class. What you're doing and all those things that you do for your classes, for your core classes, as well as for your major work, what they're doing is preparing you for what they call essential skills, transferable skills, communication, collaboration. Collaboration is teamwork, emotional intelligence, being able to communicate with other people, being able to adapt when you need to, being flexible, being on time. So making sure that you put your assignments in on time. Those are what's called the transferable skills, essential skills. It's not really about the actual topic until you get to your major, which is when you learn your hard skills, meaning the skills that say you're specialized in something. So do something that's interesting so that you have those abilities, because again, 80% will most likely change their major throughout the time. But if you understand what career prospects there are for your major, you're more likely to graduate too, because when you go to college, that's the idea, especially if you have to take out student loans. You want to make sure that you graduate so that you have that completion so that you'll be able to find those jobs and so forth. And you have to know how to get into a career and a good job. And to do that, understanding those career prospects, and I'm going to talk about that too, will help you graduate. So again, major and career can be different. Let me give you an example. You have, you're a nursing major, and you do the clinicals, you love the nursing, everything's good. You finish your nursing degree, but then, while you're at clinicals, you're like, oh, I don't want to do enemas. I don't want to poke people. I don't want to do all of this stuff, but I still want to be a nurse because I love the information. I love the talking about people's bodies and helping the health and all that stuff. Well, a nurse can do a variety of different things, work for law firms, work for insurance, work in nutrition, work for corporations that need a nurse on the floor when they're making vehicles like Peterbilt here in Denton, so that, they are OSHA compliant, all of those things. So again, that's how we can learn more about what is out there rather than just those typical things that we know about or that we learned about in high school. So early career exploration and career interactions are keys to graduation. Knowing what's coming down the pike and knowing what's going on in the career exploration. That's where consultants can help you with, our consultations, the presentations, what you're doing today can definitely help you with that graduation portion. And then, of course, standing out is the key. It's not about conforming. It's about finding what is it that you are interested in, what is it that you like to do, and how you can build on those skills. There are many music majors that don't go into music, but they built so many skills, and they built a way to really and with the help of somebody who knows how to build a resume and a CV and so forth, they're able to bring those skills to whatever careers they decide on. Now, more obvious, it could be education, but less obvious, it could be something like in the business world, like HR or something like that, because they deal with organizational development, helping a an organization, a company, grow itself by being part of a team. All of those things help to connect. And being able to stand out is and following what you're interested in rather than just saying, okay, that's my major because I want to be I need to take this major and so forth, without understanding what is it that you're interested in and what is it exploring, can be detrimental to what you're going to choose later on for the career. So here we go. That's something that you've already discussed, but let me ask you this. So let's go down to the nitty gritty. What's your major? Dental hygiene, nursing. Okay, thank you, Jocelyn. Thank you, Natalie. Education. Okay. Nursing, finance, education, nursing. I see lots of nursing, nursing, education. So this is all wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I had one finance, I had a couple of education, I had one dental hygiene, I had a lot of nursing. And often it's because that's what we've been exposed to, right? While you were in high school, when you may have been in AVID classes, you may have taken dual credit. And so you were exposed to a limited range of the types of jobs that are out there. And the idea was to bring a lot of people in to talk about their jobs, but we tend to know some specifics. Oh, there's the police officer, there's the nurse, there's the teacher, there's the astronaut, there's the firefighter, those kinds of things. So your major, of course, can dictate what is that your career trajectory is. If you want to become a nurse, you have to have a nursing major because it gives you the clinicals, it gives you the skills in order to pass the nursing licensing exam. That's just how it is. Teaching has a little bit different pathway. Finance, many different pathways to go into finance. So there's the study of finance, and then there's the career finance. So the major can, it depends on what is it that you're wanting to do and what is that of interest to you. So with the major, you had to declare it, of course. And the question is, why do you have to declare a major? I see, Lizette is criminal justice. Awesome. That's wonderful. So let me ask you real quick, is this something that you chose, like you knew from the get-go you wanted to do this from like the time you were in middle school? Or was this something that you felt like you had to choose because you were asked to do that upon TWU admission? What do you
Can you
think? Did you always want to be a nurse, or you always want to do criminal justice? Or was this something that you learned later, or is this something that you chose because it was one of those things that you didn't necessarily have an option to not choose a major?
I chose education for me. It's been something I've been wanting to do since my middle school year because the teachers I had, I noticed that they really didn't pay attention to students with ADHD or anything like that. They kind of just skipped over them. And I realized in my life there were a lot of teachers who really did not care. And when I finally got to high school, my senior year, I actually met a teacher who actually cared about his job. And it really inspired me to be a education major, and that's the reason why I really want to become a teacher, to actually be there for the students. That's my dream.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Kendra, because that's wonderful. Um, And I highly recommend, I'm going to, if that's okay, I can send some books your way, or some blogs and so forth about why people begin to become disillusioned with teaching, so that you can recognize those things, because that's another key. So you can recognize things, make sure that that doesn't happen as you become there, because it is a bureaucracy, and a lot of people get disillusioned by bureaucracy. Me,
Hmm.
I've done that. That happened to me a couple of times in my career. And that's why we're here, to make sure that, you know, there you have those mechanisms to help you recognize when that happens, so that you don't lose sight of that ultimate goal that you have, and that ultimate need that you have.
I would love those books. Thank you. This is one of my dream jobs I've been having since I was younger, and a lot of people have been discouraging me because of the pay. But the place where I live, the pay has went up twice, so I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Definitely. I will definitely do that. I won't have all your emails, but I think Dr. Hilbert will be able to provide that for me. But I have Keandra, and then Elena also asked for those. Just so that you can see, and some of these are going to be older books. I'm going to see if they're on the Internet Archive, so you don't have to buy anything. But yeah, I'll definitely send that. And the same thing in nursing. Most of my family are nurses, good job. It pays well at the beginning. And the thing is that they reach a certain level, and they just never go up from that. And that is a very big, um, frustration there. But the other frustration in nursing is burnout. So I'm going to send a list of books to you that also includes the nursing things, how to avoid burnout, how to recognize those burnouts. Some of that might be a little bit more broad, like it's not just about nursing, it's more broadly, but there are some nursing burnout type of books, so that you can recognize that. Because if you had wanted to be a nurse, like Keandra wanted to be a teacher, and Lena may have wanted to be a teacher, because I'm not sure, but may have been since middle school, since elementary school. You want to be a nurse since, you were in the hospital and you saw what they did. And that's always been your dream. And then you have the bureaucracy, and then you deal with the problems that happen in that. Instead of abandoning the dream, abandoning the thing, how to recognize what you need to do to take care of yourself, to keep moving forward. Again, just FYI, you have our services for life even after you graduate TWU. Just FYI on that, okay? So whenever that happens, you just come back and talk to the career consultants. Because the other thing is that maybe you are still kind of sort of unsure about that major, or you still kind of not sure what is it that you can do with the major that you chose. Now some of you sound like you know exactly what to do, and others are, and I'm not sure, but you might not feel comfortable sharing, because you heard others that are saying, I love what I'm going to study, and then you're like, well, I'm not sure what I want to study. I'm just not that sure. So I'm not going to ask you to go extrapolate on that or anything, okay? Because it is a private thing. But if you're still kind of unsure, or you're not exactly that excited about the major, you just chose something because you had to, or your parents are telling you, well, you need to major in this because it's going to provide security, and that's normal. I mean, that's something that all of us working class people, that's exactly what we have to deal with. We always have to worry about that security part of that. I recommend doing projects, hobbies, for the old person's word. It's hobbies. Enjoy, cultivate those interests. It's not just about what you're studying, what you're doing, what you're eventually going to do, but what are you going to do outside of the work that brings you that peace, that brings you that excitement, that allows you to do something completely different from outside of work. So, and that's a great way to prevent that burnout, for that's a fantastic way. So start thinking about projects that you can do on that have nothing to do with your major. They don't have anything to do with a career building, but it still provides you with some sort of release, and some sort of way to really, understand yourself, because that's called metacognition. You start, and education majors, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? You will know exactly how do you think? How do you work? How do you interact with people? And that way you can build a more successful way of coping with whatever career challenges come down the pike, whatever university challenges go down the pike. The other thing, and that's something that is one of the resources, you've got a little page. And I don't know, you can't see it very well. My camera is moving things around a little bit, but it's the resources for career exploration. So if you have a question about the type of, what is it that you're wanting to explore, and especially the type of environment. Most people think, well, nurses, yeah, we're going to work in a hospital. There are plenty of other places where nurses are employed. And the hospitals tend to be much more competitive than the other places, and the other places might pay more too, and might have the environment, the values, the ethics that you're looking for, the type of work mode that you want. So from that resource that's shared in your Google Classroom, this is what I recommend that you do. And you do that even though you have a major already, and even though you know exactly what is it that you want to do after graduation, or it's also recommended, of course, for people who are kind of unsure. And one of that is to explore interests. And this is what's called the RIASEC, and I'm not going to go really far into it. It's just an interest inventory. You can take it multiple times. There's no grading, nothing like that. It's just something about what are you interested in. And let's put it this way, a nurse who is investigative, who has an interest in investigation, is more likely going to be somebody who's going to maybe work in labs or work in the research part, rather than somebody who is working with the social aspect of it. Whereas somebody who's a nurse who is really interested in the social aspect is someone who's probably going to work with children, or with or as a doula, as somebody who's a midwife and that kind of thing, because they're really working with the social aspect of that. Somebody who is a finance major and that is not enterprising, meaning they're not really a salesperson, they're more realistic. That means that they're going to be giving financial advice or risk analysis type of advice, where they really talk about the nuts and bolts of investing rather than just selling a product. Nothing wrong with selling a product, just saying that it's a different thing. And understanding those interests, plus understanding your values, understanding what is it that you're looking for in a work environment, what is it that you're looking for in your coworkers, all of those things, your mode of work, what is it that you like to do, and what kind of tasks do you like to complete. That helps out. And then after that, that's a values assessment. Then there are, and again, that's on the page that is shared with you on Google Classroom. There's also the Myers-Briggs inventory. That is the called 16 personalities. That's the one that can tell you introverted, extroverted, judging, perceiving. I like the judging, perceiving part, thinking, feeling, that little end portion. Introvert, extrovert, you can change that. It depends. It's usually situational. But do you like to judge, or do you like to perceive? Are you thinking over feeling? Those things can help to also recognize what kind of environments you want to work in, and so forth. So highly recommend those. Those are some of the things that we would do in consultations. But the other major piece of advice about your major is, for most majors, you don't need to go to graduate school. You need, like, for example, we have a finance major. We also have a criminal justice major. Highly recommend, once you graduate, getting the experiences before deciding if you want to go to graduate school or not. Very important. In education, get those experiences before you go and get your master's of education. In nursing, get the experiences before you go on for a master's degree. And when you do that, be very aware of how the master's degrees should change and should move you ahead. It should move you towards something. And that's usually more directorship, more management. Do you like management? Those kinds of things. Now, in the helping professions like counseling, physical therapy, occupational therapy, those kinds of library work, the graduate degrees are required, they're standardized. So you want to make sure to, and you recognize those. But for the majority of majors that we have, like dental, hygiene, and so forth, a graduate degree is not required unless there's a specific thing you want to do with that, such as management. So just FYI on that. Be very judicious about thinking about graduate work, unless you want to become a counselor and you're going to need to that. You want to become a high school principal, you need that graduate degree. Otherwise, be very judicious about your choices, because remember that there are no grants for graduate school. You have to pay out of pocket for that. There are student loans, and graduate degree is a lot more expensive. So just so you know, the vast majority of jobs require bachelor's. Some even require only associate's degrees. And then very few actually require master's degrees. Okay, so be very judicious about that. But again, that's what we can help you with. And here's some more advice. Okay, understanding your choice by recognizing the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are transferable. Understand your choice by recognizing the specialized skills that you will get in your major. So that core, those classes you have to take, some of you already taken them, maybe in dual credit and so forth. Those are, like I said, the collaboration, all of those type of skills that are transferable. Collaboration, flexibility, time management, communications, and so forth. But the knowledge, skills, and abilities that are specialized are with your major, such as in dental hygiene, of course, it's going to be all about where the teeth are, when how to pick. I don't know exactly what, I've been with dental hygienists before, but I don't know all the fancy words of that with their work. But in finance, same thing. There are certain things, the different tables, going to knowing Python, knowing how to analyze all of those things, understanding interest rate, understanding the products associated with finance, all those things that make that specialized knowledge. And that's how we build up you towards a career. Understand your major. This is a major piece of advice. Highly recommend to do that. If you can. Now, in nursing, that doesn't always work. In physical therapy, it's not always the easiest, because that is moving up towards graduate school. But in education, you can do that. Criminal justice, you can definitely do that. Finance, you can do that. Take a class towards your major as soon as you can. Don't just take the classes, that's the core. You want to get them out of the way, because you won't feel like you're making as much headway as when you are actually taking at least one class each semester towards your major. And sometimes it's a prereq for another class that comes down the line. So you want to make sure to get all of that in a row. And that's what your academic advisors can help you with, and to really build on that. And understanding how you interact with a major will provide perspective and self-knowledge, because once you have that perspective and self-knowledge, that is where you understand your strategy. Know what is required of you. Get that degree plan filed. And I'm going to say printed out, which is such an old person thing to say. So save it somewhere. And my son, he has lost his degree plan so many times. So I actually have it saved for him on a file on my computer. But know your degree plan. Once your degree plan is locked in, that's what has to be honored. So you know exactly what classes that you need to take, so that you know what's coming down the line. But also recognize, again, by providing perspective and self-knowledge, by understanding your major, you how you can create a strategy, a plan, when you have to go through classes that you're not that excited about. Let me ask you real quick now. It's okay if you don't want to respond to it or anything, but how many of you love algebra? Okay. I always say I love algebra so much. I took it 3 times. And the third time was a charm. The first 2 times I failed it. Okay. So I learned how I learned. That's called metacognition. How do you study? How is it the best? What do I need to do in order to make myself successful? So I understood how to succeed as that. And I did that by looking at my past, where I was able to pass things, where I was able to, be successful in one part, so that I knew how to, I could take some of those that information, and I could then create a pathway for me, so I could end up being a uh, a better algebra person. And I ended up with a B in the class. Yes, very happy with that. Took me a long time, but I did it. Yay. Okay. So real quick, how to prepare for your future career. Okay, so here we get into those nuts and bolts. First of all, now that you are TW students, you've been enrolled in classes and so forth for your first semester, coming in the fall 2025, join Handshake through Career Connections. Hopefully you've already done that. If not, it's real simple. On our website, TW's website, just type in the search bar, career. And there you go. Type in that, you'll come to our page in the search results, and then it's going to say TW Handshake. That's where you join, because that's how you make appointments with consultants. That's how you find out all the different things that we're doing. That's where you can interact with employers. You can find job postings. You can do a lot of things with it and create a profile. You will actually be getting some job, leads from that as well. So that way you kind of know what's happening in the labor market. And that's an important point. So join Handshake. The other thing is follow Career Connections on social media to know what's going on, to interact with us, because we also post jobs that are not on Handshake, but are through social media. So again, you know what's going on in the world. But, and here's the kicker, and you probably have heard this before, and you're like, oh boy, do I have to hear it again? Well, yeah, you will, because set your social media to private and take control of your narrative. Because when employers, even at McDonald's, they are going to go and they can do a real quick Google search on you. And with that name that you have, now sometimes you might have a nom de plume, like a name that is not associated with you, but a good, a quick IP search can find that you and that name are using the same device. Okay, so it's a lot. It's more obvious than you think. So this is the idea. Social media, you set it on private so no one can find your public posts, and any kind of public posts that you do make should be all positive. It should not be anything controversial, but in private, go for it. Social media, again, it is something that's used to track. So avoid that at any costs, and do that through privatization. And privatization isn't always working. So be very, control your narrative on social media. The other thing is join student orgs. It sounds like you most likely are already doing this. I think that you're part of this fantastic program, and you did already that networking, and you're going to be here the whole week through. That's wonderful. Because if you join student organizations and you volunteer for roles, including leadership, even if you're like, I don't even know what that entails, but you learn about it. And sometimes, it's not, the most favorite thing, but then you learn more about yourself too. So highly recommend the orgs, because you will meet people, you start learning about how you work, how you don't like to work versus how you do like to work, and it can create a trajectory into jobs. For example, nowadays there are jobs that say, entry level, 2 years experience required. What does that mean? Student orgs. That's exactly what it means. What kind of things have you done in college? Have you done like maybe some student employment? I'll talk about that here in a minute. Those kinds of things, that's what they mean by the 2 years experience. So don't let that take you off. It's just how you communicate that on your resume. Use on-campus student employment. Now, as freshmen, you might be a little bit, kind of worried about that and so forth. But just so you know, student employment is max 20 hours a week, and they put the academics ahead of what the employer needs, which is very different from a standard part-time job. Part-time job will always put the employer's needs ahead of a academic work, but it's reverse as student employment. In student employment, we know academics comes first. If you're a nursing major, pre-nursing major, or current nursing major, you know that those grades are so important. So sometimes you don't have a lot of time for the actual work, but you still need money. Student employment is the answer. On Handshake is where you apply for those jobs. So again, in Career Connections, join Handshake, and that's where you can see the jobs and you can apply for those jobs. And then on Monday, August 25th, first day of class from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. is when we're going to have our student employment fair, where you actually get to meet the employers and you hand them your resume. So again, once you register for Handshake, you can start interacting with your designated career consultant who can then help you build that resume for that job you're wanting to get in student employment. So again, interact with us early if you are interested in student employment. It could be next year when you're more interested, because this year you're still trying to get, trying to learn, get your bearings, if you will. So, and then learn the employment jargon. There's a lot of text on this. I'm not going to go over a whole lot, but there is jargon to understanding what the work is. And you start doing that your sophomore or your junior year. Again, some of you may have taken dual credit. You might already be classified as a junior because you already have your core out of the way and you're immediately going into your major classes, the classes designated for your major. And that can be very scary because you suddenly have a lot less time to think about things, but you're still only 17, 18, 19 years old. So understanding for business and arts and science majors, there's what's called the internship cycle and then that can lead, or it does not have to lead. Internships do not have to lead, but there are things called early career programs at major corporations that help move you into management positions. And that's if you're like the finance major, for example, and I forget who that was. I'm sorry. I don't have the name right in front of me here, but yeah, Brianna, that's where you go with the internship and go into early career, and that's how you go into that track if you want to work in finance. If you want to work in like government, nonprofit, they have their cycles are a little bit different, but those are internships. If you do if you are working in nursing, education, helping professions, you do clinicals, observations, sometimes they're called externships, and then there's residency practicums after that, student teaching, where that's required for people-centric majors, and usually that's unpaid. Internships tend to be paid. If there's no paid in internships, we have Career Connections actually has a scholarship that can help you out for unpaid internships. It has to be a nonprofit or government. Student teaching, practicums, those residencies, even clinicals and so forth, they tend not to be paid or they're unpaid. So just FYI on that. Learn about those internships through our career fairs, even if you're not actively looking, because 70% of job offers derive from internships. Our career fair is coming up in October, and we have an education fair in November. So interact often just so that you know and you can see what's out there. And have early and frequent interactions with our career consultants. I gave you a lot of information today. It's probably a little bit overwhelming, and I can appreciate it. Don't worry about it. That's where your career consultants come in. When you have questions about things, just say, hey, I have questions about career and about what majors I need. I just need to talk to somebody. Come talk to us. That's what we can do. And we have all that, consultants for every college. So that was a lot of information. Like I said, I want to make sure that we make it on this in time, and we did. So does anybody have any questions or comments or concerns from this? And I will make sure to give you those book suggestions and websites and so forth, and see what I can do to get you some free books, or like free things like that. I'm not writing it down right now so I can make that. But what questions do you have? And it's okay not to have any questions right now. That was a lot of information, and probably a little bit, maybe too much, but I want, give you some ideas of, first of all, what Career Connections does, but secondly, what's going to happen or what to prepare for. Especially, like I mentioned, if you were dual credit, that you can, you're a little bit closer to that endpoint, to, the degree. But it can be a little, little worried about that, and so that's what we can do to help you to help prepare. Keandra did have a question for the career fair. Is there a dress code? It's always good to, and that's a fantastic question. Thank you, Keandra. And it's always good to have to be dressed when in, pants instead of shorts. And in October, it's sometimes still shorts weather. So you want to make sure that you're wearing pants. Jeans are fine, especially if you're not looking actively for work. It's just that with shorts, I'm going to be honest, where it says Southeast Ballroom, it's cold inside. But secondly, too, you want to put your best foot forward because you might meet a potential contact over there. Just something like that. If you are looking for work, you always do you always dress what they call business professional, which is a three-piece. You have a blazer or, a blouse or, a shirt, no logos. And then, of course, dress pants or dress skirt, and then shoes that aren't sneakers or, tennis shoes, that kind of thing. It does not have to be heels. Anything like that. Don't worry about any of that. Just something that, those typical things that we've seen. And then Adeline mentioned where can we access our degree plans? I'm going to send some information there. That would be with your advisors. That's where your degree plans is. So once you have that solidified, that's when you're going to, and it's probably going to be this semester, where you are going to get those degree plans ready to go. The degree plan is also in your catalog for when you enter into college. So that tends to be the degree plan when it says suggested ways to go on the website and so forth. But you definitely want to have it written out so that you can kind of check off, oh, I've taken this class, I've taken this class, oh, I need this class in order to take this class, and all of those things. Okay. So I just wanted to give you fantastic questions. Thank you so much for those. And Adeline, you are welcome to send me your email and I can send you where that information is too. But I'm thinking that the Pioneer Center will also be able to give you those kinds of information to your academic advisor, whichever your major is, they will tell you where that degree plan is. And when you may have already filed it and you don't even know it. They may have already filed it for you. So just so you know, thank you. I'm going to copy that. Okay, there we go. And just so you know, we have all of our consultants are here, and highly recommend reaching out to us, even though you know your major, even though you know what you want to do, even though, things suddenly, I tell you what, it's always helpful to talk to somebody just so that either you're on the right path or that you might need to, do a little bit more things in order to prepare for that path. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Tolbert. I appreciate this. I think what a wonderful program that you have. Thank you all so much.
Yes, thank you, Robin, Miss Robin. Everyone give her an applause, give her some emojis, show her some love. We really appreciate you, Robin. She has been with us for your second year here, facilitating and serving as our special guest for our Summer Bridge program series. And we just thank you so much. Graciously love the fact that you agreed and accepted the invitation to present on today. So thank you again. I did put in the chat our feedback survey, and you'll be able to let us know how today's workshop went and just give us some good feedback. Feedback is love. So please complete that survey on today and let us know how today's workshop went. Tomorrow, we will be having our financial aid and scholarships representatives here, Brandy Herring and Mafaldi Chandler that will be here. So if you have any questions about financial aid or scholarships, more pertaining to specifically to our promise students, please be here on tomorrow at 10 a.m. sharp. But yes, I'm going to send you also an email to you guys to fill out the survey for today. There's a QR code there as well that you can send out. And if you have any questions for Robin outside of this, when you fill out that survey, you'll be able to provide your contact information. That way we can make sure she gets that information, okay? Thank you guys so much. If you have any other questions, we're going to stick around for a couple of minutes, and yeah, you're free to go. So happy Tuesday. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye. You too. Have a good day, Jocelyn. Bye, everyone.